There are too many unsolved mysteries in this world, stories that feel more like nightmares than reality. Have you ever wondered what it feels like when someone disappears without a trace, leaving behind nothing but strange, haunting clues? I used to think stories like that were just urban legends, until I started digging into the real cases. The night I read about one of them, I never thought it would stick with me the way it did. Even now, I can't shake the thought. What if the truth was right in front of us all along? Tonight, we're diving into true unsolved mystery horror stories that actually happened. So stick close and keep watching till the end to find out what happened, before it was too late. But before we start, make sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss any new chilling releases. If you're enjoying the content, hit like, drop a comment, and share this video. Let's see how many of you truly love this kind of episodes. Now here's your challenge. One of the stories you're about to hear might not be real. It could be completely made up, or maybe all of them are true. Watch till the end, try to spot the fake, and leave your guess in the comments. And as for last episode's fake story, it was story number 3. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into the darkness together. I still remember the first time I heard about Zeb Wayne Quinn. It was one of those stories that felt almost like an urban legend, too strange and cruel to be real. But it was real, and it happened not in some faraway place but in Asheville, North Carolina, on a cold January night in the year 2000. Zeb wasn't the type of teenager who went looking for trouble. He was 18, soft-spoken, hard-working, and still living with his mother, Denise. He had a job at Walmart in the electronics section, where his quiet determination made him well-liked by co-workers. He just started showing interest in a girl. His world was small, familiar, and safe, until the night he vanished. On January 2nd, Zeb clocked out from Walmart at around 9 p.m. His plans afterward were simple. Meet his co-worker, Robert Jason Owens, who had agreed to help him check out a used car Zeb was thinking about buying. Robert was older, someone Zeb seemed to trust. They met in the Walmart parking lot. Cameras caught them leaving separately. Zeb in his light blue Mazda, Robert following in his truck. Just after 9:15, the two stopped at a gas station convenience store. Surveillance footage showed them casually buying sodas. They looked like any two young men killing time before the night's plans. But those few minutes on grainy tape would be the last clear proof of Zeb alive. According to Robert, something unusual happened not long afterward. While driving, Zeb flashed his headlights, signaling him to pull over. Robert claimed Zeb got out, said he'd received a page, and walked to a payphone nearby. When he came back, Robert said Zeb looked rattled, eyes darting, hands shaking, breath short like he'd just run a sprint. He told Robert that plans for the night were off. Without explanation, Zeb jumped back in his car, accelerated away, and in his rush rear-ended Robert's truck. Then he sped into the dark. That was the last anyone saw of him. Later that same night, Robert appeared at a hospital emergency room. He had fractured ribs and a head injury. His story? He'd been in a second car accident after Zeb left him. Oddly, no police report was ever filed for this supposed crash. The next day, when Zeb's mother realized he hadn't come home, she reported him missing. To Denise, her son's disappearance was immediately alarming. Zeb was responsible, dependable. He didn't vanish without a word. Something was wrong. Then something even stranger happened. 2 days after Zeb vanished, someone called Walmart to say he was sick and wouldn't be coming in for his shift. The co-worker who took the call instantly recognized that the voice wasn't Zeb's. The call was traced. It came from none other than Robert's workplace, the Volvo plant. When confronted, Robert admitted he made the call. His excuse? He said Zeb had asked him to do him a favor. It didn't make sense. As investigators dug into Zeb's life, a troubling triangle emerged. Zeb had recently started seeing a young woman named Misty Taylor. But Misty wasn't single. She had a boyfriend named Wesley Smith. Wesley was jealous, volatile, and had already threatened Zeb. Friends recalled Zeb confiding that Wesley had warned him to stay away from Misty. Suddenly, Zeb's panicked reaction after that payphone call seemed more sinister. Who had he spoken to? What words had shaken him so deeply he abandoned his plans and sped off into the night? On January 6th, just 4 days after Zeb vanished, a classmate spotted his car abandoned in the parking lot of a barbecue restaurant near a hospital. Police arrived and found a scene that seemed almost staged, like a taunt. The headlights had been left on. On the rear windshield, in garish lipstick, someone had drawn a pair of lips and an exclamation point. Inside, investigators found a live puppy, a hotel key card, and a jacket that didn't belong to Zeb. The details were grotesque, surreal, like something out of a dream. The puppy whimpered in the back seat. The lipstick marks gleamed under the parking lot lights. None of it made sense. For Denise, the location cut deep. Their family lived and worked nearby. It felt personal, deliberate, as if whoever had left the car wanted them to see it. Witnesses came forward saying they'd seen the car being driven downtown before it appeared at the restaurant. A sketch of the driver was made, and disturbingly, it looked a lot like Misty Taylor. Despite the bizarre clues, the case went cold. For years, Zeb's name was whispered in Asheville. His story passed around like a ghost tale. No body, no confession, no resolution, only a family left aching in limbo. Then, in 2015, the name Robert Jason Owens resurfaced. He was arrested for murdering a couple and hiding their bodies in a horrific crime that shook the community. For Zeb's family, dread turned to inevitability. If Owens could do that, what had he done back in 2000? In 2017, Owens was formally charged with Zeb's murder. 5 years later, in 2022, Robert finally took a plea deal. In his version of events, his uncle Gene, already deceased by then, was connected to Wesley Smith. Gene, he claimed, was asked to handle Zeb. Owens insisted he was only a witness, that his uncle was the one who killed the teenager. The judge accepted the plea, sentencing him to an additional 12 to 15 years, to run concurrently with his existing decades-long sentence. In practice, Robert will never walk free. But the story doesn't end neatly. His account leaves too many gaps. Was Misty involved? Was Wesley? Was Robert more than just a bystander? And what about the lipstick on the car? The puppy? The strange keycard? Were they clues, or someone's twisted idea of a game? More than 2 decades later, the disappearance of Zeb Wayne Quinn remains one of Asheville's darkest mysteries. An 18-year-old boy, just trying to buy a car, was swallowed whole by a web of jealousy, deceit, and violence. His body has never been found. When people speak of the case, they linger on the image of that abandoned Mazda, the headlights glowing in the night, the mocking lipstick lips on the glass, the puppy left behind, crying in the dark. It's those images that haunt you. They don't feel like pieces of a police investigation. They feel like something that slipped through the cracks of reality, something ritualistic, uncanny. And maybe that's why the story has endured. Not just because of the injustice or the tragedy, but because the details are so bizarre they border on nightmare. What really happened that night in January 2000? No one alive may ever tell the full truth. All that remains is the silence Zeb left behind. An absence that still feels louder than any answer. In November of 1971, one of the strangest crimes in American history unfolded high above the Pacific Northwest. Even after 50 years, no one can agree on exactly what happened. The official files call it an unsolved hijacking. The legends whisper it was something darker. Some say the man never walked away from that jump. Others believe he walked into something else. On the afternoon of November 24th, the day before Thanksgiving, a man purchased a ticket at Portland International Airport. He paid $20 in cash, gave the name Dan Cooper, and stepped into history. He looked ordinary. A man in his mid-40s, hair slicked, a business suit, dark tie, sunglasses. Polite. Well-spoken. The kind of man no one noticed twice. When he boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, bound for Seattle, no one gave him a second glance. It was a short flight, barely half an hour in the air. A commuter hop. The other passengers were holiday travelers, families, businessmen, college kids. He carried only a black attaché case. He asked for a seat toward the back, and he sat there waiting. About 30 minutes into the flight, he handed a folded note to Florence Schaffner, one of the flight attendants. She barely looked at it, assuming it was a phone number from another lonely businessman. Cooper leaned toward her, his voice calm but firm. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She opened it. Inside were the words every crew member dreads. In his case, it was not a bluff. When she hesitated, he cracked open the attaché case just enough for her to glimpse the red cylinders, wires, and a battery. Crude, but convincing. His demands were simple: $200,000 in unmarked bills and 4 parachutes. He instructed her to take the message to the cockpit. The pilots complied immediately, relaying the instructions to authorities on the ground. For the next hour, as the passengers remained blissfully unaware, Cooper sat quietly. He ordered a bourbon and soda, smoked cigarettes one after another, and spoke politely to the crew. They all remembered later how calm he seemed. Too calm. Not nervous, not excited, just steady. Almost as though he had done this before. Almost as though it wasn't about money at all. When the plane landed in Seattle, his demands were met. The money was handed over, the parachutes loaded aboard. The passengers were released unharmed, still unaware of the danger they had been in. Only the crew remained. Then Cooper gave his next instructions. The plane would take off again, this time bound for Mexico City. But there were unusual conditions. He wanted the aircraft to fly low, 10,000 feet. He wanted it slow, landing gear down, wing flaps lowered. And most of all, he wanted the rear air stair extended in flight. The pilots protested. No plane flew like that. But Cooper's voice left no room for negotiation. He knew what he wanted, and the crew realized with growing unease that this man knew far more about aviation than he should. Shortly after 7 p.m., Flight 305 took off again, heading south into a wall of storm clouds. The weather was brutal. Sheets of freezing rain, wind gusts strong enough to rattle the fuselage, temperatures plummeting. Most people wouldn't willingly step outside in such a storm on the ground, let alone leap into it from the sky. But that was what Cooper planned. At 8:13 p.m., somewhere over the dark forests of Washington, the cockpit instruments registered a sudden pressure change. The crew felt the shudder of the plane tilting. In the cabin behind them, Cooper was gone. He had strapped the bag of ransom money to his body, clipped on one of the parachutes, and walked down the air stair into a storm so black the crew could barely see their own wings. Without hesitation, he jumped into the void. That should have been the end of him. A middle-aged man, weighed down with money, battered by freezing wind and rain, lost in an ocean of pines and rivers. The wilderness below was merciless. Cliffs, rapids, snow. The FBI would later insist no one could have survived. And yet no body was ever found. No parachute. No gear. Not even his attaché case. The manhunt stretched for weeks. Helicopters combed the forests. Hundreds of agents trudged through mud, snow, and rivers. They found nothing. No trace at all, as if the storm had swallowed him whole. 9 years later, a boy camping along the Columbia River dug in the sand and uncovered 3 bundles of rotting bills. $5,800 in 20s, the serial numbers a perfect match for the ransom. That discovery only deepened the mystery. If Cooper had died, why hadn't more of the money turned up? If he had lived, why leave that small portion to be found? The FBI followed every lead, chased every theory. Some claimed Cooper was an ex-paratrooper. Some swore he was an escaped convict, or even a rogue CIA operative. Others whispered darker possibilities, that he hadn't jumped alone, that something had been waiting in those storm clouds, that he hadn't disappeared into the woods, but into something else entirely. What unsettled investigators most was the calmness of the man, his composure, his eerie certainty. When witnesses were asked to describe him, they struggled. Polite, neat, forgettable. The kind of man you couldn't picture after looking away. Some theorists say that was the point, that Cooper wasn't an ordinary hijacker at all, but something wearing the shape of one, that his vanishing act was not escape, but return. Decades later, the case remains open in the public's mind, though the FBI officially closed its files in 2016. People still comb the forests, dredge rivers, follow half-mad leads. Treasure hunters search for bundles of rotting 20s. Amateurs obsess over suspects. Every so often someone swears they saw him, an older man, silver-haired now, still wearing those sunglasses, sitting quietly at a bar near an airport, waiting for a flight that will never land. Maybe he died in the woods that night, his bones scattered by animals, his money washed downstream. Or maybe he survived, scarred, feral, moving unseen through the forests like a ghost in human skin. And maybe the truth is worse. Maybe he never came down at all. In 2002, the Lawrence family was struck by sudden tragedy. 12-year-old Michaela Lawrence and her older brother were told that their father had been killed in a devastating car accident on the interstate. The crash was so violent that his body was described as barely recognizable, and the family was forced to hold a closed-casket funeral. Michaela sat between her mother and brother during the service, staring at the coffin, struggling to accept that her father was truly gone when she hadn't even seen him. A few weeks later, something strange began to happen. One chilly morning, Michaela's mother, Lisa, found a padded envelope in their mailbox. It had no return address, only Michaela's name carefully written across the front. Inside was a small plastic model of Big Ben. Its base had a switch, and when Michaela flicked it, the little tower glowed yellow. Her mother froze, her expression darkening. "That was your father's," she whispered. Michaela frowned. "How?" "It's brand new." "No," Lisa said, voice tight. "That exact one was his. He bought it years ago in London. It used to sit in the den. Look, there's the scratch on the side." That night, they searched the den, but the drawer where it once sat was empty. 2 weeks later, another envelope appeared. This time, inside was a tarnished silver stopwatch, cracked and no longer working. Lisa turned pale the moment she saw it. "That belonged to your father. His grandfather gave it to him. I kept it in the safe." She rushed upstairs to check. When she emerged from the closet, she looked shaken. "It's gone. Someone's been in this house," Michaela's brother scoffed. "Maybe Dad moved it before the accident. Maybe you just forgot, but Lisa knew better." On Michaela's 13th birthday, the most disturbing package arrived. A cheerful birthday card, balloons and confetti printed across the front. Michaela smiled until she opened it. Inside, written in neat, unmistakable strokes, were the words, "Happy birthday, Sweet Pea. Love, Mom and Dad." Lisa snatched it from her. "This is your father's handwriting," she said, voice breaking. She turned it over and gasped. "This is the same card we gave you years ago. I remember writing it. How is it here?" She bolted upstairs, Michaela chasing after her, heart pounding. At the closet, Lisa dropped to her knees before the safe and spun the dial. Once, twice, again. The lock didn't budge. "No," she muttered. "No, no, no." She tried again and again, faster each time, until the numbers blurred. The safe stayed shut. "It's the wrong combination," Michaela said weakly. "It can't be," Lisa snapped. "I've used the same numbers for 15 years. Someone changed it." That night, Lisa barely slept. She checked the locks again and again, jolted at every creak of the floorboards. Michaela dreamed of the packages, of the faint metallic squeal of their mailbox opening in the dark. She dreamed of a hand reaching in and leaving behind another piece of her father. The next morning, Lisa was already on the phone with the police. "They're taking things from inside my house," she said, voice shaking. "My husband's things. And they're sending them back to my daughter. You have to do something." The police collected the packages, dusted them for prints, checked the doors and windows. Nothing. No fingerprints, no DNA, no sign of forced entry. Their advice was little more than, install a security system and remain vigilant, so Lisa did. Cameras, sensors, reinforced locks. The house became a fortress, but the packages kept coming. A necktie her husband once wore. a set of cufflinks Michaela remembered seeing on his dresser. Always addressed to her. Always with no explanation. Always from inside the house. Then, one day, they stopped. Life limped on. Michaela grew older, went to high school, and the mystery faded into silence. The safe remained sealed, a silent tomb in her mother's closet. Years later, Michaela still dreamed of the Big Ben trinket glowing in the dark, the cracked stopwatch ticking in her mind, the birthday card signed in her father's familiar hand. The questions never went away. Who had been inside their house? How had they known the safe's combination? Why target her, and only her, with the packages? Some whispered that her father hadn't died at all, that the closed casket had hidden the truth. Others believed someone close to the family wanted to torment them, using her father's belongings as weapons. Michaela knows only this. Even now, when she checks her mailbox, her stomach knots with dread. Because she knows one day another package might be waiting, and she isn't sure she'll be able to open it. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which story creeped you out the most, and if you could survive only one of them, which one would it be? Don't forget to drop your guess. Which story do you think was the fake one? Also, if you enjoyed the episode, hit super thanks if you're on YouTube, or send us some stars if you're on Facebook to show some love and make your comments stand out. Want to go next level? Get early access to upcoming episodes, exclusive members-only content, and much more by joining our YouTube membership or becoming a Patreon supporter. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's waiting there for you. Don't forget to like, share, and catch up on our previous episodes. And now, stay tuned for the next horror episode.